Hello, welcome to Beyond the Edge. I'm your host, Brandy Deutsch, and today Dee Dee is out, so I'm kind of missing her voice today, but we have a special guest. Our guest is Amy Charland, and today, hi Amy. So today, Amy and I are going to be talking about making stress your superpower. So I want to go ahead and introduce Amy. Amy works with high achieving leaders who wake up dreading the day ahead and are living on adrenaline caused by constant stress. Her clients deeply desire more control over their life and the ability to fully relax without worrying about the other shoe dropping. Oh my gosh, that's me. As a master coach, Amy brings over 20,000 hours of professional wellness coaching experience to her corporate world. In the corporate world. And then Amy, with her wealth of knowledge, she supports her clients in doing more and earning more without sacrificing their health as a result. Her clients feel better and have more energy and enjoy a richer family life. Oh my gosh, Amy, that's like everything anybody could ever want who's an entrepreneur, who works, who has a family. Oh my gosh, welcome. We're so happy to have you today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Brandy. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And Amy and I were just talking before we came on about how we knew each other. We knew each other through some coaching program and then through Women of the World Network. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I say, hey, let's get on the show. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So, and Amy's got her own show that she's doing. So it's exciting to make these wonderful connections and network. I'm super excited about what we're going to be talking about today because I think it hits home for a lot of people. Personally, for me, I mean, stress is a huge thing always, right, for all of us. But we talked about, on the show prior, or not prior, but our posting about how weight gain was an issue related to stress. But first, we'll be talking about that too. But first, I want to ask you, how did you get into this business and what made you want to help people in this way?
Yes, there's a long story there. I'm going to try to shorten it a bit. It was really, it fell into your lap. And sometimes just careers fall into your lap because you need them. And I needed the career at that point. I just gotten laid off. I was a driven leader, working my way up the ladder fairly quickly in higher education. And then I was laid off. And I was like, oh my gosh, had never expected that. I thought, oh, this is a secure job. I'm doing phenomenal work here. My numbers are amazing. Everything's just awesome. And then getting laid off. And I took some time to figure out what I really wanted to do. As I was using the Google machine, I found this thing called coaching. And so this is about 20 years ago. And at that point, I didn't know what to do with that. I was just thinking, oh, I'll just find another job in higher education. But I just felt like there's something more I wanted to do. And then I saw this little job announcement in the paper. I think the title was Behavioral Change Specialist or counselor or something along those lines. And it sounded a lot like this thing called coaching. And so I applied for that. And 16 years later, I'm still doing wellness coaching, and I've been able to see the industry progress and how credentialing for health and wellness coaches has really evolved as well. So I really literally fell into it. And I should mention too, at the point when I got laid off, I was 400 pounds because I didn't know how to manage stress. And all I knew to do was to go home and eat to soothe myself so I could continue to just go to work and do the work that I was doing. So when I say that it fell into my lap and I needed it, that was truly inspirational for me to have just this concept of wellness coaching and this little job announcement show up is kind of
Right.
like divine intervention there
Right.
in a way.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I mean, we definitely believe in that here on the show. We talk about it all the time, how it's a
Mhm.
synchronicity, it's a synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's almost seems like a miracle that this could happen at the right time, at the perfect time for you. And
Mhm.
and I'm fascinated by what you said when you said, yeah, I lost my job. I had these health issues. You were
Mhm.
overweight.
Yeah.
How did you change the your condition? Because obviously you've lost the weight and it was,
Mhm.
I don't, was it challenging? What did you do? What kind of steps did you take in order to change that?
Mm. Yes. Well, I had been a huge dieter, a yo-yo dieter. I was always the heavy set, the heaviest kid in class growing up. And earlier in my life, I think teenage years, I almost got up to 300 pounds and then I lost it. And then, back and forth with all these diets. I decided this time I was just going to ditch all of that. And because all I had created is really disordered eating. I was binge eating or not eating. And I was absolutely miserable. And I thought, I can't keep living this way. So I ditched everything. I stopped looking at magazines. I stopped all of that we typically do when we start and transition,
Yeah.
right? Or we
Yes.
think of, oh, I want to lose weight. I just threw that all out the window. And I said, you know what? I am just going to stop eating ice cream. I remember that was the very first thing because I was eating a lot of ice cream.
Hmm.
And I started to lose weight because I just cut out ice cream. And then I took one step and another step and another step. And it took me several years. And frankly, I'm still on that journey. I'm not to my ideal weight. I'm still working on it. Pandemic certainly threw a wrench into things,
Yes.
but I learned how to eat in a way that is satisfying, but it also fuels me in a really good way. And all that disordered eating is gone, but it took time. It took just one step at a time. And that's really what I work with my clients on is just let's chunk this down to list where can we start to start building a foundation of change.
Yes.
Because often we want to change everything and we want quick results and it's all or nothing.
And it's overwhelming.
Yes, so overwhelming.
It gets overwhelming. I think that's such a smart way to approach it. And it's, when you do things in little pieces, and as coaches, we talk about that just in general. How do you go about making a change? You do one thing at a time. Otherwise, there's too much happening at once. It gets overwhelming. You give up, you quit. And so I want to talk about using stress as a superpower.
Mhm.
So let's get into that. What does that mean? What does that mean using I mean, everybody has stress, right? Like, how can we turn it into something that is healthy?
Oh, definitely. And I'll be honest, for many years, I thought, oh, stress is really bad. So I tried to eliminate stress because that's what all the traditional information tells you to do. Just get rid of stress.
Right.
But when we do that, we actually cut ourselves off from so many opportunities. I mean, I was starting to isolate myself. I
Yeah.
was just staying stuck in a job where I wasn't growing. I was doing things that were keeping me in this little cocoon of safety, and
Mm,
I was didn't have much stress, but goodness, just really was not personally and professionally growing at that point. And so when it comes to stress as a superpower, that's one of the pieces is that it can help to challenge us so we learn and grow. And interestingly enough, stress also helps us to build closer relationships.
mm.
But it all takes, if we were to funnel that all down to what the superpower is when we shift our perception of stress, that's when everything changes. And
Yes.
it's really that perception. Instead of thinking of stress as bad, how can we flip the script to look at it as something beneficial? If
Mm,
I can share just a quick study here with you,
Please.
Brandy. I thought this was so eye-opening. And so there was a study, I think started back in 1998, and they tracked the participants for over 30 years. So when they started, they identified those people who saw stress as harmful to their health. And then they identified people who saw stress as beneficial in their life. And both of these groups had a lot of stress. And after the 30 years, those that saw stress as harmful were 43% more likely to die younger.
Mm,
So here they are trying to avoid stress and thinking stress is harmful, and actually it shortened their lifespan.
wow.
Whereas those who saw stress as beneficial actually lived longer, and they had a lot of stress. This group that saw stress as beneficial, they actually lived longer than those with little stress. I mean,
Wow.
it blows your mind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That the power of perception.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So can we talk about like examples of that? Because I'm thinking
Mhm,
like, what are examples of looking at it from a beneficial perspective? The
mhm.
only one that comes to mind right now, maybe you can give us some more, is having a deadline for something, or having like, okay, this I'm gonna start doing this on this day at this time, and that's what's gonna happen, and then actually doing that. For some, I would think that would be a lot of pressure to put on yourself to say, this is when I'm going to start doing this. And for others, it's like that's a starting point, right? So
Mhm.
tell me, what are some examples of like looking at stress from a beneficial perspective?
Oh, absolutely. And if I may just back up for just a moment, let's look at the stress response.
Yeah.
And let me put out on the table this idea. What's similar between roller coaster rides and scary movies and video games and public speaking and traffic jams? What those all produce, even though some of those are enjoyable, they
It
all produce the same stress response.
yes,
It's
yes,
how we view them.
right.
And so that stress response, if we really were to break that down, it's about our heart beating more quickly to get blood to our muscles, to get us ready to perform. Our breathing gets faster. So we're getting oxygen to the muscles. Our pupils dilate, and we get stress hormones that are pumped into our system, which help us to focus. So back to this idea of scheduling a deadline. Once again, it's all about perception. If we're feeling that stress response, and we're thinking, oh wow, this is really bad, I need to stop this, what happens? We procrastinate and we distract
Mm,
ourselves. But if
mm.
we think of this as, ooh, I can harness the energy of this moment, of this stress, I can harness that in this moment. I can meet that deadline. And I'm actually going to be really focused doing it because my body has readied me to perform at my best in this moment.
That's a great way of looking at it. I say great. I feel like it's probably a much more healthier way of looking at things. What's coming up for me now when I hear that, because I'm thinking of a particular experience, is what about fear? What about the
Mm,
fear that comes up when, let's say, you're about to go speak up in front of a bunch of people, and it's exciting, but there's also this fear of, I could really screw up, right? So what do you tell people when they say, but I'm really afraid? What do we do
mhm.
then?
Oh, absolutely. And fear is part of that threat response, which triggers, yeah, that whole stress response, sympathetic nervous system. And you kind of answered the question there, Brandy. It's focusing on, oh, I'm so excited, instead of, oh, this is really scary. I might mess up. It's really that inner self-talk, right?
Right.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I don't know if you're familiar with Mel Robbins. I just love her, and
Yes.
the work that she does. And I saw this little clip right before she went on stage. She was talking about the specific thing. She goes to the audience, I am fully stressed right now, and my armpits are sweating, and I'm just feeling it. But instead of thinking about public speaking, I'm thinking about, I'm excited, I'm excited. So she's putting that energy back into her mindset of, I'm excited, I'm excited. And then you can move through fear by how you're talking to yourself, and you get to make a choice.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. I truly believe that almost in every scenario, we get to make a choice in terms
Mhm.
of how we feel. At first, sometimes it's not even like recognizable that you have a choice, but I truly believe that we do have a choice, and we can choose to look at things differently so that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Can you give us an example of what it's like when you work with clients?
Oh, absolutely. And when I work with clients, I really help them to identify, first off, where they want to be with their health and wellness. Because often, especially for driven and high achieving business owners or executives, we're often really focused on just the next thing that we have to do. And we're not really focused on our health, and we're not thinking about the future. The future is, retirement, and the future is not going to help us to, the profit, bring profit in or get to the bottom line, right? So we're really focused on uh, right now instead of, okay, what can I do for my health? So just first imagining where you want to be with your health and wellness currently, and then also in the future, because when we start to get burnt out, as I had done as a leader, we feel like we're working really hard, and it looks like we're achieving a lot, but there's eventually a time where the law of diminishing returns, where you just can't keep that pace up. And so a lot of
That's
folks
right.
I work with are starting to recognize, I can't keep doing this
That's right.
without just completely having a health crisis
Hmm.
or not making it to retirement. So that's the first thing I do, is just, what is that vision? And often we keep putting off health because we're like, well, nothing's wrong right now, and not
Right.
recognizing, like, sleep. Oh my goodness, there's so many leaders I talk to that they typically get like 4 to 5 hours of sleep, and they've done
Wow.
that for so long they think that's all they need. But
Wow.
when they get a little bit more, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that the words came to me more easily and life felt easier. And so those little shifts then too are so important. So recognizing where they want to go, and then
Yes.
making those small little shifts. Once again, not doing it all at once, but those small little shifts make
Right.
all the difference. And typically, if someone isn't sleeping, I will invite them to start with sleep, because sleep
Right.
really is foundational to any change.
That's right.
It helps us to make better decisions. It helps us feel motivated. Helps us to give that energy that we need.
That's right, and I agree with that 100%. I personally need 9 hours every night, and I don't always get
Mhm.
it. I have a toddler at home, and she's a wildfire. But sleep is incredible, and what I think happens a lot of times, we acquire habits throughout our lives that don't support a healthy lifestyle. Like it doesn't support our highest and best wellness practices. And so, not realizing, and I know that from being a yoga teacher too, being able to look at the body and say, wow, your shoulders are hunched over, just
Mhm.
the way that you've been carrying your body is not for your best and highest good. Can
Mhm.
we change it a little, one step at a time? And our habits can sometimes cause us stress, right? Instead
Mhm.
of supporting health. I think that's a huge realization for some people. Is what? I'm not getting enough sleep. Well, I can't sleep. I've got things to do.
Right, right. It's going to, cut back on my productivity, and not recognizing that it can actually enhance it. But that's a really hard shift. If something has worked for you for a very long time, it's really hard
Yes.
to make that change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's absolutely true. It can be a challenge, and that's why people like you, coaches like you, who can help other people. Speaking of which, another question came up for me. Uh, do we both have been in other coaching programs.
Mhm.
You obviously see the value in having a coach for yourself, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Yes.
I don't know that I would be where I am today with coaching if I had not had coaches myself.
Mhm.
So I think it's really, really important that we employ other coaches for us so that we know how we want to interact and also learn and grow for us, right?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely, because we've all got our blind spots, right? And we really need someone to hold us accountable. Not that self accountability isn't something that we have, but it's nice to have this outside person going, I really want to be here to support you and hold you
Yes.
accountable for what you think is important, and also unpack. Um, because as people and anyone, I think, in the service industry who are givers and who really want to serve in some way, we sometimes forget that we need to have someone there to support us as well. And we're giving, giving, giving. And it's so important to have a coach as able to help us unpack that and see where we can improve ourselves. And that just benefits our clients as well. I really believe if you're not developing yourself as a coach, you're no longer coaching.
That's right.
You really aren't.
That's right, 100%. I mean, we must, right? We must
Mhm.
also do our own work, do our own um, unpacking, as you put it, so that
Mhm.
we can help other people to the best of our ability. And that's how we learn to help others as well. We've going through
Mhm.
something and we know what that's like. We can always make it relatable to what somebody else is going through. So yes, this is a great conversation, Amy. How can people get in touch with you if they have questions, or if they want to know more about what you're doing?
Oh, sure. They can. Yeah, there it is on the screen there. They can reach out to me directly via email. This email goes directly to me, Amy at lightsonagaincoaching.com. Feel free to email me. And also, I have a Facebook page as well, which I'm starting to shift around a bit. And you can find me then on Facebook at Coach Amy Charland. I'm on Instagram as well at Coach Amy Charland. So feel free to reach out, connect with me. I'll give a shout out that this is where you saw me. I always like to know where people find me.
Yeah, for sure. And your Facebook page is called Lights On Again Coaching, right?
Yes, yes.
Lights On Again Coaching, which I love. I absolutely love that title. And so excuse me. So this has been great. Like I always learn a lot whenever we have a guest on, especially when there are other coaches, because there's so much information that we can share for each other and find out how are you doing it, how is she doing it, how is he doing, and really help people in a way that resonates with them. Super important, I think, because everyone is so different and so unique. And when we share what we know with other coaches and with people who are interested, I just think it just blossoms into this big, new community network type thing. And speaking of community networks, you and I are both members of Women of the World Network, which is an incredible network. I didn't put their info up here, but we talked about unpacking. I think it also is important for people who are learning new habits to find a community that they resonate with, especially now, especially today. You mentioned one of the things you did when you pulled back from stress was isolate,
Yeah.
and how that made things worse, not better. And I think that's an important piece, is to have a community, even if it's a small, two, three, four group of people that you can connect with on a regular basis, so that you can have um, more just connectivity in the world. And connection is huge. Connection is really big when we're talking about healing. Has that been your experience as well?
Oh, yes. And I'll be really transparent. I'm a huge introvert. I much prefer to just do things on my own. And there's been times where I've like, oh no, that's going to be too much stress to go do that. But then what happens when we go? We meet these amazing people and we feel energized, right? And so I just remind myself before going to networking events or connecting with other people that I always leave feeling energized. So I think as introverts, sometimes we need to remind ourselves of the benefits of connecting.
Right.
Plus, oxytocin's released too.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, which makes us feel connected, feel like we're part of a tribe,
That's
which
right.
is, yeah, it's so important.
It's very important. And it's been easier than ever now that everything's online, even for introverts. They don't have to go anywhere. They can be right in the comfort of their own home and connect with people, on a screen, which can still be a little scary, right? But I think there are some benefits, and as we talked about stress before and the benefits of stress, one of the benefits of the thing that happened last year, the pandemic, was that we got to connect with people we would have never been able to connect with through online things, through different types of venues that we didn't have access to before. Or I wouldn't have thought, oh, there's an online meeting, I'd rather go to an in-person meeting, because I'm the opposite of that. I'm the extrovert. I want to be bubbly, I want to meet everybody. But then being online was I was a little nervous about that, because I'm like, but they're just on a screen. But it's the same.
Yes, yes. And I couldn't agree more that the pandemic for me as well. I would have never perhaps found Women of the World Network, for instance,
Yep.
because I was so used to this concept of having to network in person, through Chamber or BNI. But yeah, it's been just amazing. For those of you watching this, Women of the World Network is just an amazing organization. I've met the most driven and caring and kind and supportive women that I have met anywhere. It's just a beautiful group of women that are really attracted to this organization, which I
Yes.
love.
I agree 100%. And what's great is I'm the chapter lead for Houston, and you're going to be on in the chapter meeting, speaking at our chapter meeting tomorrow. So I love it. For people who missed this, they can catch you tomorrow. I'm going to make sure they know on all our pages that you can see Amy again. I love that. I love that. And it's great because, hey, I just saw her. She looks familiar. She looks familiar. That's right. She was on my show yesterday. So, yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah, Women of the World is an incredible organization. We do so many amazing things through that organization, not only for each other, but for other people. I love being a part of that, and it's so important. It's just so important to connect with other like-minded individuals, and that's a good place to do it. And they're so different. Everyone's so unique because they're so from all over the world, and I love that too. I love learning more about other people. So Amy, it has been such a delight to talk to you today. I think I learned a lot, and I think other people learned some things about stress and how to use stress as our superpower. And I know you have a lot of knowledge about, about stress, about health and wellness. I really hope people who are having issues, who are having problems, can give you a call. Or if they're just curious, if they have questions about whether or not stress is affecting their life, and how can they do better? How can they improve on what they have and what's going on with them?
Oh, definitely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on today. And thank you all for watching and for listening. Oh, before I forget, we have our light intercession list. For those of you who know someone struggling, who maybe they have a lot of stress in their life and they're not sure what to do or what to do next, please send their name to our light intercession list. You can reach us by texting us their name, or you can also just send it via Facebook message. The telephone number is, just the text number is 805-500-3343. or you can message through Facebook at Beyond the Edge TV. And our website is www.beyondtheedge.com, beyondtheedgeproductions.com. And we've been working on that. It's going to be a really incredible site. Hopefully soon we'll be broadcasting from our site. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and making that happen. That's going to be absolutely amazing. So Amy, thank you again for being
Thank you.
on. We really appreciate you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Namaste, everybody. Okay.